Hello everyone and welcome to the second season of the Wrestling Afterthought, where I actually have two new co-hosts in Justin Bailey to my right and Nathan Bush to my left. They're my two closest friends and they are complete avid wrestling watchers like I am, and we're going to discuss today our top 3 favorite WWE superstars of past and present. So the way we're going to run this in order is we're going to say our 3 and then our number 3, our number 2, and then our number 1, and tell you our favorite match from the current superstar or the past superstar. So, Mr. Bailey, you want to go first?
We're starting with number 3.
Starting with number 3.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Why Stone Cold Steve Austin?
He was a total badass. You know, that was back when I just got back into wrestling. I was out of the WCW phase because it turned to shit. Mm-hmm. And I started watching WWE again, or WWF. Mm-hmm. And Stone Cold was a badass. He hit his boss. He did everything against the rules. I loved it. I was a kid. He's rebellious. I was rebellious.
Okay, and what's your favorite match with Stone Cold?
There's so many, but his match with Bret just showed how good he really was technically.
Okay.
Now, he didn't need to be carried like some top stars today, Cena.
Rise above hate, Bailey.
Rise above divorce, Josh.
All right, Mr. Bush. Who was your number 3 favorite superstar of all time?
First of all, it's great to be here and be a part of the show. Been an avid watcher for a long time. My third favorite superstar is going to have to go with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was everything rolled into one. He could wrestle technically, he could brawl, he could do everything in and out of the ring. He was great on the mic, he was great with anybody. Now, Kurt Angle had a lot of great matches that I was a big fan of. His match with Shane McMahon from King of the Ring was great. His matches, his feuds up with anybody. His match at WrestleMania 16 with Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, great match. But my favorite overall Kurt Angle match is actually my personal favorite match of all time, which is Kurt Angle Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 21. And it was just a great match, and it led to a really good rivalry between Shawn and Kurt, and it gave Kurt the last real run he had in WWE, and his last really big main match in the big show. And it gave Shawn a big push, too, because Shawn was starting to slip a little bit, but that match, I think, put them both back where they needed to be.
I agree. My third favorite superstar is John Bradshaw Layfield.
Shut up!
Okay. I mean, he had the look of...
Shut up!
He had the look of a champion. He had the combed-over hair, and I used to wear the combed-over hair all the time, so it was kind of, a thing. Shut up, Bailey. If anybody's watched the old Afterthought videos, know what I looked like before. But he just had the look. He could talk. He didn't have the best matches all the time. I mean, he had some stinkers with Batista, who can't work
Who didn't have a stinker with Batista?
Well, Batista can't work his way out of a paper bag. Batista couldn't have a match with a basketball, remember?
Oh, we'll rant on Batista later.
Yeah, we'll rant on Batista later. But my favorite match with John Bradshaw Layfield is against Eddie Guerrero at 2004 Judgment Day for the WWE Championship. It just had all the ring psychology going into it with Eddie's mother supposedly having a heart attack from JBL. It's just a really personal felt match, but it just made for a good feud for them, and it put Eddie up in the spot that he needed to be, even though he lost the title the next month. But it put JBL up in the main title picture, too, for the next 2-3 years. So that's my third favorite.
Still a wild card with JBL, everybody's expecting somebody top tier huge.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, thank you. Who's your number 2, Bailey?
Y2J, Chris Jericho. He is positively one of the best ever, all wrapped into one package. He really is what he says. He's the best in the world at what he does. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a rock star in the ring. And he's funny. He can be serious and be funny at the same time. He says these words, I have no idea what they mean sometimes back in his big heel phase before he did the Fozzy tour again. Yeah. He was just so funny. He can do anything he wants in the ring, on the mic.
And he still gets cheered. Like he gets booed by the people, but anybody that knows kayfabe and stuff like that knows that he needs to be cheered. He's just a good person. He's a good entertainer.
My favorite match.
He's probably the last.
It's not his best match ever. It's one of his top. I think it's one of his top 5 matches ever. WrestleMania 28 with CM Punk, because I was there. 4-1-12. I was there. He was there too. He wasn't.
I was with him.
I wasn't there.
I got to see my 2 favorite active stars wrestle for the WWE title, and I think they stole the show.
They put
Rock
on
and
one.
Cena put on a pretty good match, but it was more of a pop fest.
Yeah.
Undertaker,
Triple H
Triple
was
H
just a
with
drama.
Shawn Michaels, that was a story match.
Yeah.
You know, the end of an era, the end of a childhood for me. But the best wrestling match that night was Punk Cena.
Best technical wrestling match I've seen in a long time. And to be there was something else.
Might have been the best technical wrestling match since HBK
And
and
he
Kurt
put
Angle.
CM Punk
Could be.
over.
Could be.
Yeah.
He put so many people over nowadays.
Yeah. He doesn't have to do that either.
No,
He's
a top
just
star.
just good for the business.
And the funny thing about Jericho is, look how long it took him to get an actual world title run.
Yeah.
It took him a
He was the
long
first.
time.
He beat Rock and Austin in the same night.
Yeah.
Who
That
else
shows
has done that?
shows how much faith they had in him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, off the top of your head, can you name anybody else who's done that? They were the two biggest stars back in the day.
No,
It's never been done before
never-
or again.
no, they haven't done that.
It never
in
will be
a
done
long
again.
time.
But moving on.
Okay, you're number 2.
Number 2 for me is Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig.
Four.
He was one of my all-time favorites growing up. Just everything that he could do, he was perfect, literally. He never really had a bad match that I can recall. Always spitting the gum, showing off how good he was. You know, he kind of spun. He could work in the ring with anybody. He could do whatever he wanted. He could talk. Even when he was hurt, they could use him. He was a great announcer. He was a great manager.
Well, that failed.
Yeah, you didn't do very good at that.
I wasn't perfect.
No.
Afraid you're gonna stab
He could do everything. Like even his just motions with a towel and a piece of chewing gum showed how good he was at what he did. It's a shame we lost him as early as we did, but I will say he was one of the best in the ring of all time.
All right, then what's your favorite match from Mr. Perfect?
Of course, the Bret Hart Mr. Perfect match from SummerSlam 1991 goes for the Intercontinental title. Back when the Intercontinental title meant a lot.
Intercontinental title back then, the best wrestler had that title.
Yeah.
The ticket seller had the
And you
had
couldn't
the
couldn't
title.
book a match like that anymore.
Wasn't Mr. Perfect also hurt in that match? I thought he had like a broken back during that match.
He was hurt. I'm not sure what the injury was.
I'm pretty sure
he
pretty
might
sure it
have
was his
had a
back.
broken back or something.
But he
He
wrestled,
was hurting in that match.
They wrestled
but
what, 35 minutes?
35 to 40 minutes.
35, 40 minutes.
And
It's
Perfect,
unheard of nowadays
Perfect could
in
put
the
on a
Intercontinental
match.
title match.
Perfect
You know,
even
I
like
mean,
lost
match.
half of his attire during that match and still just
Yeah.
went out there and worked, and it was so good. It was so fun to watch. And the likes of a Mr. Perfect are very rare nowadays, which is sad.
My number 2 favorite is HBK. Shawn Michaels had everything in the 90s. He had he was a good worker. He had the look of a champion. He was a small guy, but he could work, and he could work with anybody. He could work with Psycho Sid. He could work with Diesel. He worked with Bret Hart. He worked with Owen Hart. He worked with anybody they put him in with. He never had a bad match in the 90s, except for, of course, this guy will say that the
WrestleMania 11
WrestleMania
match was atrocious.
their match
But
their match at In Your House when
I
Shawn
put-
was champion was better. Than
I
that.
put more of the blame on Diesel for that, though.
Yeah, but Shawn never had a bad match with him.
Here's my problem with Shawn Michaels. When he was younger, he was an ass. He did not.
Oh, yeah.
He did not want to.
Oh, he'll admit that.
Put anybody over or anything like that. He wanted to be the top guy.
Yeah.
Or
It's
nothing
not
else.
often.
It was him and his clique that he wanted as the top
I
guys.
heard the rumor, which is probably true. He did not want to drop the title to Austin.
No, he didn't. Well, there was a rumor, but according to a lot of the dirt sheets, and I'm pretty sure if I can remember reading Shawn's book right, that he did say in the book that the Undertaker pretty much told him to drop the belt at WrestleMania at Austin. I'm not sure if I remembered that right, but
Back then, he didn't want to do what the company needed. He wanted to do what he needed. That's
Well,
what,
at the time-
that's what I don't like about him. That's the only argument I ever had.
at the time, well, the same could be said for Bret Hart too. No offense, but the Montreal thing,
Bret
the same thing could be
screwed
said. But I mean, like if Shawn didn't want to do what was right for business, and Bret didn't want to do what was right for business, something had to be done with each other.
We could talk on that later.
Yeah, but anyway,
We'll have an
Don't get me
episode-
started on
We'll
that.
have an episode on the rivalry.
Don't get me started on that.
yeah, we'll
Episode
talk
2, the rivalry.
Yeah,
There we
episode
go.
2 will be Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart, our greatest rivalry.
Don't worry, Batista. You're gonna have an episode dedicated to your
Oh yeah,
talent.
We'll call it Wrestling Botcha Fest.
yeah. Anyway,
Batista,
anyway, we're getting farther than what we
Deacon
should be.
Batista.
But the thing about Shawn Michaels, I'll say, is I've always respected Shawn Michaels. He's a great wrestler, and if he hadn't had that second run,